Stop the cap.
Don't forget to pick up my new book. It's on Amazon. The link is in the description box.
White power?
Black power?
How do black people have power? We conquered their land.
Black people are just as free as we are.
Yeah, but they're not, like, they have all those socioeconomic and those, IQ issues. People from sub-Saharan Africa have lower IQs.
Because they're black doesn't mean that they have IQ issues. Some people are dumb, some people are smart.
Rats are all out in the night. Look, everywhere. Every time I come to fucking Asda, fucking 50 of them. Fucking, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the fucking state of them. I can't wait for the purge. I really can't wait for the purge. Like, look, just everywhere. Everywhere you look. It's fucking ridiculous.
This is a new level of racism. This man is in Asda and he gets so upset to see ethnic minorities in Asda. He's talking about the purge. I'm sure that all of you know what the purge is. This man can't wait to harm or possibly unalive ethnic minorities. And why is that? Because he's a scumbag racist.
Well, I just left my 25th apartment tour in the last 4 weeks. That's 25 apartments in 28 days. And let me just tell you, it is a fucking disaster. For any older person or older generation person or person with a ton of wealth who bought their home, 40 years ago for $14 and a piece of candy, I need you to understand how big of a housing crisis we have for young people and for younger generations. And some people might say, well, you're in New York. That's what you signed up for. Sure, I'm more than happy to pay way more money to live in a place that I want to live in. But it's not just New York. I've lived in LA, I've lived in DC, I've lived in San Francisco. We have a housing crisis everywhere. And it is the biggest economic crisis of our time. It is pricing out younger people from having children, from saving for retirement, from buying homes, from getting married. It has having extreme downstream economic effects on my generation and younger generations. And we've just been told that it's normal. It is what it is. No, this is a policy failure. This is the result of years and years and years of policy failures. We need more housing. We need more affordable housing. We need politicians and elected officials who prioritize and run on building more housing and investing in more affordable housing. This is a policy failure. It is not normal. I make pretty damn good money. I do. I'll just say that. And I still can barely find an apartment. So imagine what it's like for a single mother, for a lower income family to try to find a home right now. It is a fucking disaster. And we need leaders to do something about it.
30 people in the span of a month and a half from ICE. They're hunting them. They see ladders, nail boxes, anything in their truck, they getting pulled over. Slab guys, framers, the lunch lady got pulled over. I seen the drywall lady and her daughter get pulled over by ICE. They go get gas at the gas station. ICE hopping out on them like the SWAT team. Bro, listen. He was like, oh, I thought they was chilling now. I thought that was just the beginning of the year. Bro, I done lost so many people since the beginning of the year. And everybody houses is taking a hit. The market is in shambles. I poured 3 houses, 3 slabs, 3 concrete foundations. They've been sitting for a week because my framing team got picked up. They went to go get gas and they never came back. So you talk about America is going to feel it. They already are. The builders feeling it, but the people building, buying homes is going to feel it. They're being hunted, and I get it, everybody got to pay their way and all that shit. But like, bro, who the fuck y'all think built this shit? Who y'all, the immigrants, the people that's coming from other places? You think Americans trying to pour concrete in 90-degree weather? You think Americans trying to be up on the roof? And man, I had a motherfucking framer on the roof and it was raining and the wind blowing. I had to make them come down. That's how dedicated these people is to building y'all shit. And the disrespect. Oh, they shouldn't be illegal. They shouldn't be. Bro, I get it. Like, they humans too. I had my framer, the owner of the company, Mexican lady, was pregnant. The same week she gave birth to her kid is the next day they deported her husband. We got a problem, and the shit ain't getting no better. So everybody talking that shit, shut the fuck up.
Is a symptom of a disease that's taking place in the West right now. If it wasn't Donald Trump, it would be J.K. Smith, who had narcissistic and populist impulses and was running things with some level of evil and mendacity, meaning there's a very large group of people that have checked out of the system. If you're going to buy the median house in the U.S., it's $430,000. You're going to need about $150,000 to cover the mortgage payment, to have a little bit of discretionary money left over. The median salary in the US is $84,000. So there's a $50,000 gap. And so therefore the American dream for at least half of the people is no longer attainable. Now, if you looked at those numbers 50 years ago, 80% of the people could afford the American dream. And so what's happened is there's a very, very large group of people that have checked out on the system. It's a very large group of people that feel that the system is unfair and they think the system is rigged for the rich and it's very disadvantaged for the people that are not rich. In comes Donald Trump. He becomes an avatar for the anger of those people. And then he becomes their white hope and they adhere to him in a way that's almost cult-like, so that even if he's doing things that are nefarious or misguided, or he's doing things against the things that he promised them, they adhere to him anyway. It is not Trump in isolation. It's not, I'm going to get rid of this one man, where in 2028 he will have lost political power in the United States and therefore things will revert back to some semblance of normal. That's not going to happen.
The ironic part is Gen X was probably the last generation to profit genuinely off real estate, because what the fuck? I grew up in a house exactly like this. $500,000 on the market. This is the front entrance. $500,000. You get purple walls. And then you get blue walls. All different flooring too. This is tile and then this is wood. For $500,000 you get 80s style carpet in the bathroom. And purple walls in the master bathroom. Here's your $500,000 kitchen, by the way. Your walls are blue. You have half an inch of countertop space. At least you get a gas stove. Here's your $500,000 backyard. Granted, the yard did wrap around further beyond the pool, but what the fuck is this for $500,000, $500,000? It's just ironic thinking how, like, in the 80s when this was built, this was 100% worth like 60, 80 grand at most, maybe 100 grand. Now it's $500,000 in today's. Still looks like it's from the 80s. Do you really think Gen Z is going to be able to buy this at this price and it's going to actually stay its value? I mean, this is like rug pull waiting to happen, bro. If someone buys this and the market crashes, they're fucked.
Tell me why I went to the gym and I pull up. I was thinking I was going to have a late night workout. You know, I forgot on the weekends their hours are shorter. And so I didn't get to work out. So I'm a little irritated right now. I guess I'll work out here. You know, I got one of them Peloton bicycles and shit. I'll probably do that. But anyway, I'm gonna get out the car and walk through some of this. You know, because like I said, the video I did the other day was kind of a rant. You know, and having continued conversations, you know, with the white guy that I wrote, you know, I used as the archetype of this sort of white mentality. And I mean, he is really, I swear he's the perfect candidate, because what he says is not much different than what I hear, you know, online, although I do think he's much more influenced by what's online. But he's been this way for years. I mean, we actually stopped talking for 2 years, 2 whole years. We stopped talking because of, you know, just the shit that he was saying. It's right around the years when, you know, right after Obama got elected, and then, you know, all of us, you know, millennials, you know, we started seeing all the white people, they was talking crazy, you know, on Facebook. You know, and a lot of times you wouldn't say anything, and then you get in there and you start typing something, and then 4 of the people jump in, and then they want to sit there and call you a racist, and you like, yo, this is crazy. You get one black or biracial president, or president is non-white, or outwardly non-white, and all of a sudden, I mean, they were attacking him off of who he was, not his policies. And you're like, oh, what is the fucking problem? We done had, what was it at that point? We done had what 43 previously white president, all white presidents. I think it was weird. And that was like before all of this high level of consciousness. This is right around the time, when that white girl that I was fooling with, the one that was like, I think black people voted for Barack Obama because he was black. I'm like, bitch, as if I could say the same thing about you all voting for all the 43 previous presidents. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was no other option. But you start to see, how you start to see how, even though there was no other option, like how much, they really think, that, a white man should be running things. Right? And, this goes back to, what I said in the book about white supremacy broke America. I mean, it really broke America. I mean, some people argue it broke the world. All of it. Yeah, we can go with that argument. Maybe that'll be my next book. Who knows? But I'm saying, where do I want to start? Where do I want to start with this conversation? Because I was thinking about it, on my drive back. But it's like this. It's like the part that interests me in these discussions is it's almost like I'm a therapist. I'll poke and I'll prod and then watch the reaction. And then like him not understanding that I've already seen all this behavior before. The talking points that he says, they're not new to me. They're not really prophetic to me. He reinforces what I've already seen, right? Or what I already believe. He like reinforces that shit. I'm like, I knew that's what the fuck y'all were on. Like, I end up saying that to myself a lot. So, like I said in my previous video, they really do have this idea of what I want to call it. This idea that when they're on top, like that is the natural order of things. Right? And, when they're on top, everybody else is conquered and they just need to accept the fact that they're conquered. And that's what it is, because this is the natural order of things, because white people are just better. End of discussion. Right? And then when they start losing, they go into this whole state of paranoia. There's something wrong with the world. You know what I mean? There's a disturbance in the force. You know what I mean? There's something wrong with the planets. The planets must be aligned. And it must open up a dark portal or something. Like, I mean, they really start, freaking out. And then that, brought me back to that, morality is for friends shit. Which I was looking at the video. I was re-looking at the video of Morales because it was taken down, then it was re-uploaded by somebody else, and then that guy who made the video started having a debate with another person. It doesn't have a whole bunch of views, but the guy, I don't know, he sounded like he was from Sweden or something like that. They were having a debate about it, and I was sitting there, I was thinking about what would be a good, because I saw a comment, I was like, what would be a good example of showing, because he's talking about this in-group, out-group thing, and other people have other cultures and their behaviors are as such, and due to different environments, right? It's all this like, late 1800s sort of pseudoscientific racial hierarchy rhetoric, right? And that's what you hear. And I noticed what white people do, in particular with black people, like in America, like, and even, even with talking with him, what they do is they argue that how do I say it, that the current state of things, it like explains itself, right? So like, it's like there's no like cause and effect. There's no like white people did this and that's why these groups right now are like this or in this condition. It's like I was having a conversation with somebody talking about the pressure cooker. I was like, I don't look at black crime the same way that you look at black crime. Again, there's a difference between the communities. Black people came out of slavery with nothing but the clothes on their back. Then they were supposed to get Reconstruction, and that was supposed to, bring some sort of parity between white and black. And then it immediately got shut down after Lincoln got assassinated, right? And so after that, it was 100 years of freaking Jim Crow. Like the inequality that took place in America, these ahistorical young white men today act like discrimination against black people went on for like 5 minutes, and that black people are somehow like overly use that gross inequality, that historical several hundred years of inequality as we overuse it as an excuse, right? So that's like the one angle. Then the other angle of it is where they're just, again, utterly, completely ahistorical and ignore the conditions that they created, right? So, like, I look at the black community like it's a pressure cooker. Like, white people, they'll sit there, they'll talk about, it's black on black crime and black people are killing each other and, you're doing it to yourself. But you have them in a pressure cooker, where there's poverty, people are frustrated, they can't get the things that they need, right? It's like somebody being hangry all the time. Or like how irritable people get, in a situation or an environment where there's no air conditioning and they're just hot. And so you're already irritated, and then somebody comes through and fucks with you in some type of way, where if you were in a different setting or a different environment, it wouldn't bother you as much, right? So black people are in a pressure cooker. And then what white people do, white people who are not in a pressure cooker, or I might be able to argue that they're in a self-induced pressure cooker through their psychological psychosis, because again, the fear of loss. White people are at the top, they fear losing their position. The only place to go from there is down. So they have a constant 24/7 paranoia that I'd argue that, a lot of other groups don't have, in particularly black people. Now, maybe I can only speak for black people, but they don't have that. You know what I mean? And we could argue that some of that might be an inferiority complex, or some of that might be a belief that, black people, can't be or shouldn't be in the leadership position, right? Because you get acclimated to whatever the level it is that you're kind of like born into, and like where white people always see themselves as like the hero or the leader and whatnot. And black people always see themselves as like the sidekick or like the subordinate, sort of person, right? This is what we talk about in these movies where, Last Samurai, Avatar, Fern Gully in the Last Rainforest, Enemy Mine, what's another movie? Dances with Wolves, right? All these movies, the white person comes in, and they identify with the group that's being oppressed, and then they switch sides, and then they become the leader amongst those people. I mean, that's the whole basis of Avatar. That's the whole basis of Last Samurai. That's the whole basis of Enemy Mine. That's the whole basis of Dances with Wolves, right? And then you could throw in Fern Gully and Last Rainforest if you want to. But this is a pattern, and this has already been talked about and written about, this sort of white savior, sort of complex, where even when white people try to create the fantasy of themselves, being oppressed, and then mix themselves in with a marginalized or oppressed group, that white person will inevitably become the leader amongst the group and then lead them to freedom. You see, because, white leadership always has to be like the thing, especially white male leadership. Right? But like, what was I about to say about the whole thing with like the pressure cooker? Like, again, like when I see white people doing fucked up shit, and I understand that there's class and whatnot, there's going to be more crime in Appalachia than there's going to be crime, in Beverly Hills or Bel Air or downtown Manhattan, right? Which always gets ignored. It's like, you have white people that act like, if you make a statement, where there's poverty, there's crime, they'll be like, nah, nah. But then if I go over to the white community, where's the majority of the white crime? It's where white people are poor, right? You go down into Appalachia and shit like that. That's where all the motherfuckers got crystal meth and the what do you call that? The petty crime and theft. You know what I mean? I remember I did a video years ago with a guy from Kentucky, and he's got relatives that they're not only drug addicts, but the family has to hide everything from them because they'll come over there. They're kleptomaniacs. They'll steal shit, take it down to the pawn shop so that they can sell it and get money so that they can do more drugs. You see? So, what else was there? Something else I was going to say about it, but yeah, the people always want to make these sort of comparisons, like how the obsession that all these white nationalists have with crime statistics, like that's meaningful. It's not meaningful. Like if there was parity between the white community and the black community, then it would be meaningful, but it's not meaningful. Black people came out of slavery with nothing but the clothes on their back, 100 years of fucking Jim Crow. And then all the other policies that I talk about, the redlining, the COINTELPRO, the, running highways through black communities and demolishing and destroying them, right? And then stuffing everybody into projects. I mean, these motherfuckers, they just skip over huge swaths of American history and then act like, oh, black people, look at them now. They're just like that. Look at them now, right? Just completely, utterly ignore all of the marginalization, and so, you have this whole, again, like I said in my last video, this whole weird situation with morality, where again, it's moral relativism, where there's this demonization of black people, and black people's failings are a moral character flaw, which further reinforces why white people should be leading. And then even speaking on the leading thing, right? Again, this whole like it's our birthright to lead, and then they'll look at the current conditions. They'll say, oh, well, look at the black community, it's all fucked up. Well, the black community is a byproduct of all the policies and discrimination and marginalization that you did. Right? But they'll try to justify their leadership. But here's the funny part, right? It's like if you're justifying being the leader, right? And like, how do I want to say this? If you're justifying being the leader, is there any scenario where white men fail or make a mistake, or are they just perfect? It's like the freaking, women that are delusional that get up on the microphone whenever they do these street interviews. You rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm a 10. I'm a 10. I'm a 10. Like I feel like if you ask white men to rate their leadership, they'll say I'm a 10. We're all 10s. I'm like, so there's no such thing as white male failed leadership? Or failed white male leadership, however you want to say it. There's no such thing. So white men can never fail. They've never made a wrong decision. They've never made a mistake. They're just perfect, and it justifies why they should lead. Right? And then when you call them out on it, then they'll run and be like, well, look, why? Well, what do you want? You want black people to lead? I mean, look at the black community. Right? That'll be their argument. But I'm like, the black community is underneath the umbrella of your system and your structure, which from its very conception was unequal, right? I mean, it's like we started the Monopoly game with like fucking $5, and they started the Monopoly game with $50,000. And we've been landing on hotels like the first move we make. You know what I mean? We land on fucking, Virginia Ave and shit, and there's already a fucking hotel there, and then we get hit with we immediately go into debt as soon as we land on the fucking hotel. And then they're like, see the black people, they don't know how to manage anything. And the crazy thing is you got other black people that also think like this. It's one of the reasons why I have contempt for a lot of the religious people, because a lot of the religious people, they want to argue, the religious black Christians, they want to argue that despite being in the pressure cooker, either God is so powerful and magical that if we just, pray hard enough or have a strong enough faith that God is going to somehow circumvent all the fucked up shit that white people are doing. And that black people just have to stay moral in this pressure cooker that white people created. And that somehow we will rise to the top. And white people, and God's going to smite white people or some bullshit like that. And that is how we should function. Right? Or that our true reward is in the afterlife while white people get to enjoy all their shit here. It's very, very twisted concept. And the people who really believe that garbage really believe that garbage. Not realizing that Christianity was used as a fucking political tool to fucking brainwash black people. Again, if Christianity and the Bible were that fucking powerful, then white people would have never given it to us. If it was actually that effective, they would have never given it to us. I don't pay attention to what they give us access to. I pay attention to what they deny us. And they deny us access to capital, access to, education, access to firearms, right? And the ability to defend ourselves, right? That's what they deny us. You can have all the Bibles in the world. You can have all the churches that you want in the black community. Try to open up a black bank and see how hard it is. And compare it to how easy it is to open up a black church in the black community. Fuck out my face. I will gobble you up in an argument on this front. So we got a bunch of black Christians that just operate against the best interest of black people. And again, the white supremacists, they want it that way. They want you to be magical and non-critically thinking and emotionally consumed with the idea of Jesus and all this other bull. They want you to be consumed with that shit. But what else is there to this? I'm starting to believe that, any sort of, dealing with and interacting with white people and thinking that, America can like be a thing and continue on, or at least, our relationship with it, with the way that, white people think, in particularly white men, is untenable. Because, even like when you switch over and you look at like the other things that have nothing to do with behavior, I think that white men think that black men are the ideal masculine. And I think that with the months of, everything that we've been seeing over the last couple of months, since Trump, got into office, all of the over the top racism, the mud shark shit, we already know what that comes to. Comes from. I already talked about it numerous times. Young white men have never had their moment in the sun because the freaking white oligarchs and boomers, are hoarding all the fucking wealth, and they're insecure about the concepts of manhood and everything that they've been sold. Black men have been made the antithesis of what they're supposed to be. Right, so we're like the boogeyman. We're like the crocodile pit. We are the representation and face of failure, completely ignoring again the systems that they put in place to ensure black male failure. You see, and so Um, as you have all this stuff going on at the same time. Women's empowerment, where they're making their own money. They're not wholly dependent on white men anymore for their survival, right? And you have, young black men being the face of youth culture, which, I mean, for a long time, white men had to be just in the background, just mad. Like, why is this nigga in the spotlight? They're supposed to have low status. They're supposed to be, in the shadows. They, even though, the whole thing is you have a bunch of white men and some Jewish men that are making money off of, promoting and selling hip hop. But your average proletariat white guy, he don't like that shit. Because here you got this young black guy in the spotlight and he's not. And then that gains the eye of women, because women are not race loyal. Women only care about fame, game, money, or looks. So whoever's in the spotlight and gets the most attention, tends to be the one that they will fool with. You see, and then the barriers of the past that were in existence. And again, let's acknowledge that the interracial relationships are far few and in between. Let's acknowledge that right off the top. But the problem is again, that social media makes it look like it's way more prevalent, than it is. And then what's the other thing I was going to say about the with due to failed white male leadership, especially of the older generations, young white men, they don't have, that material wealth to offer that they once had before. And so the consequences of white women stepping outside their racial group are far less, right? I mean, other than shaming tactics and rhetoric, like, what do white men have to deny white women, especially young white men? They don't have anything to deny young white women. Where in the past, if it was 1955, there was a whole bunch of stuff that white men could deny a white woman who was labeled a quote unquote race traitor. That is I'm not going to say it doesn't exist today, but it's severely diminished. It's a young white guy is not offering out economic opportunities, right? And especially when you get into, even these more conservative, young white guys, a lot of them are not college bound. They're not college educated, where white liberal women are college educated. So there's an educational gap between liberal white women and conservative white men, with the minor exception of those young white men that are going to like Brigham Young or something. And, half of their academics is about, theocracy and shit. But they're not in alignment. White women and white men are not, in alignment. I think there's way more liberal white women than there are conservative white women. And then there's some weird thing going on where like conservative white men don't like conservative white women. Like they say they do on paper, but like, there's been videos of liberal white women saying, "Why the fuck are you in my DMs?" I don't know what that's about. There was one video of a white female bartender and she was talking about that. Look, I've seen that shit working at a strip club, that, there is an aspect of opposites attract. You know what I mean? Like people talk all this racial shit and, we put our community first, and there might be, especially when you have wealth and legacies or whatever, generational wealth and whatnot, and you have, very strong, you participate significantly in your community. Yeah, you might make your contribution to the community by getting with your own, but in terms of what these motherfuckers fantasize about, you know what I mean? Like you'll sit there and a guy will look a certain way, and you'll have a guy, come in to the strip club and he will go and pick something that is you wouldn't even think that's what he's interested in. Motherfucker come in there with a cowboy hat and some shit like that. He wants the black chick or the Spanish chick. You like, don't you want the Russians, the Slavic women? Isn't that what you came here for? The blonde chick with the blue? Nah, that's not what I came here for. Shit, I came here for what I can't get at home. Shit. What I can get that. That's regular. I can get that, 7 days a week, twice on Sunday. No. I want what I can't get. Right? They white guys are coming there. They want the Asian women. You know what I mean? And especially them, I already know what them cornbread white dudes. If a white dude looked like he built on some, like, them big sausage finger having ass white boys, them incredible Hulk hands looking white dudes. If the motherfucker is built like the dad in the Incredibles and shit like that, if he's built like that, I'm like, right this way, sir. I already know where you're going. I already know where you're going. You got taste like a black man. You ain't interested in nothing small and petite. You know what I'm talking about? Them big lumberjack looking white dudes. They do not fuck with them little petite ass white girls that you would think. You think you in your mind you're like, oh yeah, he wants the cheerleader, the 124-pound cheerleader. No, he does not. Motherfuckers be in there with shit you like. You're like, what? It's just it's so fucking confusing, so confusing. I can't explain it anymore. I remember there was a Russian chick. She was Russian, and she wasn't that attractive. She was not that attractive in the face. I'm gonna talk about myself. She was not that attractive in the face, but the way that bitch moved. There was one like techno song that she used to dance to. That shit was motherfucking mesmerizing. But she wasn't. She was a little older. She was like, I don't know. How you can't tell white women age in dog years. So like I couldn't tell how old she was. I was like in my early to mid 20s at the time, But she was like, I don't know. Maybe she was. I want to say she was in her late 30s. Couldn't tell. She looked a little older in the face, but man, that bitch was. It was the way that she moved that was moving me. It was sexy. She didn't have a whole bunch of ass. None of that. It was just she had enough of an hourglass, and it was just sexy as hell. So I'm saying I get it. I get the whole like you be sitting there like, yo, that ain't even like, even if you're braid, like, yo, that's not even my type or like that's not, man, please. When the strip club, is especially if you got like a wide selection of women in the strip club. You know what I mean? Like the strip club is fantasy central. And if you think I'm lying, if you think I'm making some shit up, on this side note about strip clubs and shit like that, for the women, what I mean? I'm like, open up your man's porno history, and I guarantee you're going to see shit in there that you didn't think he was into. You know what I mean? That's the fastest way to figure some shit out. Just go into their porn history. That's probably a Chrissy line right there. She'll be like, girl, if you want to figure out whether this nigga's a colorist, what you gotta do is you gotta steal his password, get into his computer, go to his porno history and see what he's been looking at. If he's been looking at Muy Caliente, that nigga ain't for you. He's a colorist, bitch. Leave him alone. Go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. You know what I mean? It'll be that shit. So, there's that. But I'm just saying, the whole thing is if we're seen as that formidable as a group of men, because again, they don't talk about anybody else. They don't talk about anybody else. And with us, it's like it's strictly like sexual. When they talk about the Hispanics, they reproducing too much. There's too many of them. When they talk about the Asians, the Asians, they're really smart and they got BYD and they're producing products that we can't compete against and we got to worry about them. And what if they take Taiwan and then take over the microchip processor and TSMC and all of that, right? They start talking like that, right? When they talk about the Muslims, they fear is, the terrorists and Sharia law and, oh my God, they built a mosque down the street. What are we going to do? Right? So they got all these different type of like fears when it comes to all these other groups. Notice none of them were sexual. None of them were sexual. And if you go over to Europe, they may, they'll bring up the grooming gangs. And notice it's the grooming, it's the raping and everything. All that rape talk, that was like some, like, I don't know. That was like some Jim Crow South shit in the US. But you don't really hear the rape talk anymore coming from white men, in this modern era, when it comes to black men. Everything that they say revolves around they're trying to shame white women. You see how it's changed, right? Before it was they try to make it out like, the whole, like, the situation with Emmett Till, and make it like all black men are rapey, or Jack Johnson with the Mann Act, right? And that white women couldn't possibly find black men attractive, right? They did that shit forever. You know what I mean? But now, because of social media and what they see online and everything, that narrative has basically died. You know what I mean? And they're like, shit, the rape argument's not going to work. What do we got to do? Oh, we got to shame these white women out of dealing with, these black men. And again, like I said, the numbers ain't even there, but the paranoia is there, which tells me that white men are running around with these ideas in their head that go far beyond the reality, which tells me that they've been feeling this way for a very, very long time. They've been physically intimidated by us. Physically intimidated includes, again, being a formidable foe, and, fear of that we have, that we're sexual competition. And in a situation like that, see, they'll sit there, like I said, they'll bring up the crime statistics, 13, 15, and da-da-da-da-da. It was funny, I saw a video the other day of a guy, he was always going in on black people. Now he's going in on Jewish people. And then in the video, he mentioned that, he's like, yeah, but when you actually look at the numbers, I don't know where it went, how, like, I guess somebody told him to do the math on the shit. And when you look at the numbers, of black people who actually engage in crime, it's like the freaking, less than like 3% of the population or something like that. So it might be less than 1% of the population. I forget the calculations, that I did, but I want to say I'll be generous and say less than 3% of the population. So it's like they run around, they're like, 13, 15, all this other bullshit, right? But again, that doesn't even matter, because even, okay, let's make it 13-0, right? Even though the whole 13 is dumb, because I'm like, what are you gonna say? Every single black person in the black community is committing crime. All 13% of them, which equals 42 million people. So we have 42 million black felons in this country. Like, just dumb shit. But fuck it, let's just go with the rhetoric. 13-0. 13-0 is still that doesn't matter, even if you brought it to 13-0. Because the issue is that fear of sexual competition. That's what the issue is. And then again, as you see with Lily Gladys, where she's over there talking about, we don't need to focus on the black community. And if you look at the math, it's the Hispanics, right? Because black people are 13% of the population, Hispanics are 17% of the population. And they're reproducing faster than black people are, right? So she's like, yeah, the focus needs to be on them. And I'm like, see, this is what I'm talking about. There is no proper black behavior to fix the problem. None of that. Because Hispanics, they go for, like, when they're talking to black people, Hispanics they're hardworking. Black people, why don't you work hard like the Latinos? They're so hardworking. That's why we hire them for construction. Not because we don't want to pay other white American young men proper American wages. No, it's because they're hardworking and they work harder and better than white Americans, even though we really don't want to pay young white Americans. Right? It's like it's their argument, right? And they love to say that when they're talking to black people. But then on the flip side, then you got Trump running around, the cartel, and they're rapists and murderers and killers and all this other shit. Right? So it just depends on, like, which way the breeze is blowing, what day of the week it is, that determines what type of shit they're going to talk. So when they don't like the Hispanics, all the Hispanics are cartel members. When they're trying to shame the black community, all Hispanics are hardworking or more hardworking, and black people are lazy, which is always the most hilarious thing because white people brought black African slaves to America so that they didn't have to work the land themselves, right? Who's the real lazy one, right? Same thing with Asians. Asians are hardworking when they're comparing them to black people. Oh, they're so smart. Oh, look at them. They're so successful, right? And then when they don't like the Asians, then they bring disease and COVID and SARS and Asians are, they're sneaky and we don't like them, right? Then same thing with the Indians. Oh, look at the Indians. Oh, they're at the top of the income and in this country and blah blah blah, right? Which the funny thing is there's a lot of consanguinity going on with the Indians, where first cousin marriages, especially the Pakistanis. You know what I mean? And they're able to keep wealth in the family and have the numbers like that because they have a lot of those first cousin marriages. I have witnessed that shit myself. Okay, it's easy to keep money in the family and keep wealth going on in the family where every other generation or so, you have people marrying their first cousins. When they get married or they're looking for marriage, or let's say the person goes and marries somebody that they're not related to, if that marriage fails, boom, they immediately scramble back to, I got a cousin available back in Pakistan. They immediately go back to that shit. That whole comparing them to everybody else, I already recognize that shit as bullshit, to begin with. Because, again, all that first cousin marriage shit. It's a little harder to start a business when you're trying to bring two families together and they basically can say fuck each other and then, they fight over assets in court and shit like that. That don't really happen, with the Desi community like that. So because there's nowhere to run to. It's not like all the in-laws are going to get on your bumper. You know what I mean? Your uncle's going to get on your bumper because of whatever is going on between you and his daughter, which is your first cousin. I don't even know why people try to compare them. The shit goes on way more than you think. And it's ridiculous over there in the UK. They got to have special tests, to make sure that the kids don't come out all. They got to make sure. They got to do all these tests. They're being discouraged right now. There's all type of documentaries on YouTube right now. Just type in what would you call it? It's not just incest. Is not the word that I'm looking for. If you just type in YouTube first cousin marriages UK and everything, it's just all going to be about the Indian community and especially the Pakistani community, because they get down like that. But what else is there to it? Yeah, so in terms of us dealing and interacting with white people and whatnot, in particularly white men, because their money's all fucked up, so they're just going to be on what they're on. They fear us. They fear our desirability, us working out. And you think it's trivial. You think it's it's just some insignificant shit. You think it's I'm saying that based in arrogance, being cocky about it. No, I'm saying it from a standpoint that you understand that white men are dangerous when you are a black man that has a strong masculine presence. What I'm saying to you is that their jealousy is always going to have you where they're trying to fuck you up in some way, fuck your finances up in some way, right? You're not going to get the promotion. You're not because you don't qualify. No, because You know what I mean? They look at you as the physical embodiment of the alpha male, and they wish that they were that. They wish that they were that. It's the same thing as what you see, like if you ask a man, you know, like, you ever seen the shit where they got a little chart and they got like different guys of varying muscle size from like 1 to 6, you know, or 1 to 5. I think it's like 1 to 6. And when they ask the women what they like, the women usually say right in the middle or just above the middle, right? But when it comes to so actually it would be 5. 5 would probably be it, because you can actually have a middle number with 5. So 3 would be the middle, right? So women will say like 3 or 4. Okay. Men, on the other hand, will say 4 or 5. More will say 4. Men will say that it's better to have more muscle mass, that's the ideal physique, and assume that that's what women like. No, that's what men like, because men recognize that you need that muscle mass in order to be formidable against other males. Women, on the other hand, I mean, you go around and ask women, you know, whether they like a guy who looks like he plays in the NFL or a guy who looks like he plays soccer. They're going to say soccer. They're going to say soccer damn near every time. You know, the women are not that into, the men being, all that muscular. Now, there is a caveat to it where what women say versus what women actually go for aren't in alignment. So like when women say some shit, you always got to take that with a grain of salt, because women will sit there and they'll say, oh, I want guy number 3 who's right in the middle. But then she's over there, with the black NFL player, Tyronius Maximus. You see, so there's a little bit of an inconsistency with them. But I'm just saying, with this type of, fear going on, I don't see how we can reconcile anything. I think it will, this whole dynamic will continue to be a problem, with dealing with them. So people will say, well, what are we going to do? We got to work together. It's just that simple. We got to work together. It's got to be group economics like a motherfucker. You got to trust, the black man, that's, that are near to you and you deal with, and you got to, get these, young black men, especially quote unquote YNs, they got to get off the bullshit that they're on. Like I said, part of the problem, with black manhood, is the fact that there's really no positive black male identity after the age of 30. Everything just kind of cruises around, hip hop culture and street culture. And then after 30, when you start talking about grown man shit, there's no transition. And then you're like all on your own and whatnot. And this is where, we fail, in terms of, organizing and whatnot. So because even though we're in the pressure cooker, even though white supremacy is doing what it's doing, we should definitely be more organized than we are. And we're not. So, that's a problem. And that's why these conversations, are important, especially for the younger guys, to hear that shit. Because, I'm telling you, it gets real ugly, after 30. The realities, you may have a kid, you got responsibilities and whatnot, and you're just subject to white boys and their bullshit and their insecurities and whatnot. You're just subject to the shit. You're like, motherfucker, I ain't even thinking about you. I'm trying to clock in and clock the fuck out, right? And they over there like fucking with you and shit. Because they're mad, because they're over on Facebook, screaming about Arena Zarutska. And even let me bring that up real quick, because I saw a post where the guy, he's up there talking about the whole thing. So, and I think I mentioned this in my last video, this black guy that clearly had mental health issues. I went and looked it up. He's got a whole long history, just like the Carlos Brown, of being arrested multiple times. So he looked like he was having a mental breakdown. He was saying something about his son Elijah was sexually assaulted, and he was randomly punching like white women in the face, and then he was posting it to social media, which is like weird, right? They even like, again, Instagram is just all over the place in terms of shit being consistent. So anyway, so the shit got posted to social media, but the guy just looks like he's out of his mind. I don't know whether he's bipolar, schizophrenic. He's got something going on. Okay. And the like, it's amazing at how, like, not too long ago, or not even not too long ago, we just had the shooting at the In-N-Out in Idaho. White dude who was a big Trump supporter. He tried to join ICE, and then I don't know what happened. He didn't get to join ICE. So he crashed out, and he went into the In-N-Out and killed 3 white people. Okay? You're not going to see Legion of Men make a video about this and go crazy and make, generalized statements about the entirety of the white male race because this white guy crashed out with an AR-15 and killed 3 white people at an In-N-Out in Idaho. Okay? You're not going to hear him make that. But guaranteed, if he hasn't already made it, he's going to make a video about this guy, that mentally deranged black guy running around punching white women, and then bring up the DeCarlos Brown and be like, say, look. And again, all of this ties back to the fact that, again, failed white male leadership of them defunding mental health. They've been defunding mental health since the 60s. You know what I mean? And I can go through all the policies of the defunding mental health. Okay, and the people are like, oh, and we got to deal with these woke leftist judges and shit. It ain't got nothing to do with that. It's in the statutes. It doesn't matter how crazy a motherfucker is. Okay, you cannot keep people in jail indefinitely simply because they have mental health issues. Because they're acting erratic or they're doing erratic things. And the things that they're doing are like even a whole slew of nothing but misdemeanors, is just going to get you arrested, charged, you know what I mean? And probably have to pay a fine, probably spend, a few days in jail. You know what I mean? And then you're going to be released. You know what I mean? Prison are for serious crimes. Burglary, robbery, fucking, murder, manslaughter, like all these sorts of things. Right? That's what prison is for. But it's just like, again, white people, I swear, man, all this projection is low IQ shit. White people don't read. They don't read. You go and you look at what the average reading capability of the majority of white people in this country, these motherfuckers don't read past the 6th grade level. They can't read. They don't read. How much of white America do you think is sitting around using AI to do research or to study anything or even write anything? How many of them do you think like actually use their brain for anything other than consuming, Fox News and other like conservative social media? All it's designed to do is just trigger white people. With the manufactured white outrage. That's all it's designed to do. Whether it's the Christian white nationalists, whether it's the MAGA, I'm a conservative, and then they always got like some Bible verse, 316, like in their fucking in their profile. It's always the ones with the Jesus cross, the Christ is King, you know what I mean? And then they'll have like Isaiah something, right? Ephesians something, John something. Right? And then they'll have like a little cross and they'll have like a little dove or some shit. Like, it's always them motherfuckers. Whenever you see their profiles, Those people are always the most like foaming at your mouth racist. You know what I'm saying? Like that black dude in the 1960s said to that white reporter in the barber shop. You know what I'm saying? Your Jesus is contaminated. Your Jesus is contaminated. That's what I see. Like, you don't see love and compassion and all that other shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's so twisted. It makes me want to vomit in my mouth. Whenever, you get these, white people that want to claim that they're Christian, when you really examine like the shit that they say, how they think, they're disgusting people. They're literally disgusting people. You know what I mean? And then they got no critical thinking skills, and they blurt out Christ is king. They don't care about the fucking facts. You know what I mean? They have shit for education or no education at all. You know what I mean? You ask them about world events. These are the people that if Jimmy Kimmel walked up on the street, remember we used to be like, oh, here's a pin. Can you show me where China is on the map? These are the motherfuckers that can't show you where China is. These are the motherfuckers that don't know where Australia is. These are the motherfuckers that'll run around and talk about Germany and white culture and everything. Okay, here's a pin. Show me where the fuck Germany is on a map. Show me where Deutschland, show me where Deutschland is on a map. They can't show it to you. They can't show it to you. Even a map that actually labels the countries. They're just moving the pin around the whole fucking globe. You know what I mean? They got the pin over Brazil and shit. You know what I mean? They're sitting there like squinting at the map of South America. Like, I know it's here somewhere. Most of these people are stupid. They're stupid. We live in idiocracy. We got a stupid ass fucking country, and when you take stupid people and then you sprinkle racism on top of it, and then you got a completely ahistorical, a concept of what America is. These people don't even understand their own fucking class warfare. You know what I mean? Ask them, fuck when the Gilded Age was. Ask them what was the Gilded Age. They got this twisted, warped Fox News idea of where white America just simply starts in the 1950s with fucking Levitt towns and a booming economy and all that hard work and personal responsibility fucking rhetoric. Completely ignoring the way that the financialization of the American economy over the decades, and the whole reason why young people can't find work today or find work that actually pays enough to fucking survive. All these stupid ass people voted for this shit over time, especially, obviously the older ones. They fucked it up for their own children. And then their own children come on the internet and they're like, oh, the reason why the world is fucked up is because, black fatigue. You know what I mean? And this shit was like 50 years coming. 50 years coming of them just, again, using black people as the scapegoats, using black people as the boogeyman, all this shit. It's like I said in my other video, even when it comes to Europe, Europe needs to pay attention to what goes on in America. Europe should be supporting black Americans, because the crazy thing is, what goes on in America, like the retardedness of white people in America affects white people in Europe, because if white people in America are retarded, then they put retarded leaders in power. And those retarded leaders in power literally control the strongest white controlled military on the fucking planet. Then they go around the fucking planet and they start destabilizing shit and start bombing shit, right? And start undermining shit, right? Drop the bomb on the Nord Stream pipeline, right? Then go over and bomb Iran, fucking up the Strait of Hormuz, right? So Europe is really hurting right now. They're really hurting. And it's all because they looked at America and they were like, oh, that's them over there. Right? That's them over there. We don't have to worry about what's going on over there. Right? You know, and you got this because the like, and the stupid thing is the white supremacy from America has now contaminated like Europe. Like it started in Europe, then came over to America, right? Like you had the whole Nazis, then come to America, and then that same mentality, like the white Christian nationalists, like the new shit, right? That like all this stupid shit that you hear. How come white people can't have an exclusively white nation? You know, I'm like, yeah, they're all in Europe. The fuck are you talking about? Right? It's this nonsense. White people started on one continent, and now they're on all of the continents. Right? Took over whole regions and shit. Right? You got all white countries, you know, or overwhelmingly majority white countries. North America, South America, you know, like Argentina, right? You got Australia, right? You got Namibia, you got South Africa, right? Where white people like it's amazing to just sit there and talk about we white people, we need to have a place, you know, for ourselves. But yet you have places in the world where white people go to hoard the wealth. They're like 7% of the population, right? And then 93% of the population is something completely else. You know what I mean? And then still stand there and act like they're the victims of shit. It's insane. I've never seen a more insane group of people. You know, and then trying to like justify, you know, all of the fucking, you know, inequality and shit. Oh, you know, this is our rightful place. And then make arguments about how they're victims. You know, they're victims of wokeness and all this other shit. Again, the problems that Europe ignores about how fucked up America is based in white supremacy affects Europe. Who do you think blew up the Nord Stream pipeline? Who do you think blew that shit up? Germany can't even do its manufacturing like it used to because of this whole war of the Ukraine and Russia and they can't get the cheap oil. Russia's been trying to become a part of NATO. They tried to become a part of NATO 2 times and were denied by the U.S. What does the U.S. need? Like a boogeyman? You see? You know, so, you know, you get this situation where white supremacy ends up biting white people in the ass. All that hate that they got, I mean, it really just, it fucks just their whole future up, and they don't get it. You know, and then you end up with, you know, black people minding their damn business. You got who you wanted. You got the House, you got the Senate, you got the judiciary, you got the presidency, you got everything that you wanted. What are you bitching about? Black people don't have nothing to do with your high-ass gas prices, your high-ass grocery bill, your high-ass fucking rent, your high-ass fucking housing. What do black people have to do with that shit? But yet these motherfuckers will come to the internet and scream black fatigue more than anything. Just like they'll come to the internet and scream about, you know, this mentally ill black guy that was beating up white women randomly on the street than they will the white dude who went into the In-N-Out with an AR-15 and smoked 3 white people, killed 3 white people. Granted, yeah, is it fucked up that he ran around and punched these white women in the face? Yeah, that white women didn't die. You know what I mean? They got fucked up. I'm not making excuses for it. I'm saying the guy's mentally ill. I hate when people jump up and try to use, you know, mentally ill people. You know, but it's always funny to me how like white guys can be crazy. They can be as crazy as they want to be. White guys are allowed to be crazy. Black guys, nah, it's because the entirety of the black race is evil. Like, what? But the white guy that goes in and kills a whole kindergartner class, that's not evil. That's just, he's crazy. You know, I mean, that was just a one-time thing. You know, he's just crazy. You know, I mean, most of us ain't on that. Then they go into defense mode. You know what I mean? Then all of a sudden, now they want to have a conversation about mental health and, oh, we need, background checks on mental health checks for firearms and all this other shit, right? They go into all that. But if you're black and you're crazy and you do some crazy shit, then it goes into the, see, blacks have a propensity to violence and all this other, all that bullshit. And that's another thing. Like, like if this black person was doing crazy shit in the black community to black people, white people wouldn't care. They would just say, "Oh, it's black on black crime." It's just a matter of fact. It always kills me. How is black on black crime at the same time that white people will run around and argue that they're being persecuted and targeted? But any other day, any other conversation is, black on black crime and the blacks are killing each other. See, we're not holding you back. You're holding yourselves back, right? That's the argument that they make. But then, you'll have a black person that will attack 9 black people. 9 black people are harmed or injured or whatever, right? And the one out of the fucking 10 black people, the 1 out of the 10 people that this black person attacked just so happens to be white, and then all of a sudden, the Fox News, all that shit. We need to have a conversation about the hatred that black people have for white people. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this nigga attacked 9 black people. Yeah, we don't care. We don't give a fuck about none of that. We only care about the one white person that he attacked. And now we're going to have a conversation about, and then we're going to string it and tie it to every incidence of a black person attacking a white person and then make it sound or seem like there's some concerted effort of black people sitting around a round table and conspiring against the whites. It's fucking, I'm so sick of the white people's intellectual dishonesty. I'm so sick of their shit. You know what I mean? And they be charged too when they come to the internet. They be so charged. They be hyped. They think they're talking some sense. All it is stochastic terrorism. You know what I mean? And this is why I just tell black people, man, just stay strapped, man. Just stay strapped. And when these motherfuckers come around, with that dumb shit, you know what to do. You know what I'm saying? Cause they running around all charged, just like you see with this white dude talking about, we're gonna purge and all this other bullshit. You know what I mean? Stay motherfucking strapped. Let them run around thinking that black people are a bunch of soft targets. Let them fuck around and find out. Because they're gonna find out that day. Just like that video on YouTube of the white dudes that tried to pick on the black dude, who was in the IHOP restaurant with the Mexican and punched him in the face. And then the little dude came running around and, he thought he was going to do something and everything. And he took fucking 3 rounds to the gut. Let them run around, with their fantasies in their head. I told you, they be running fantasies, man. They run movies in their head. You know what I mean? Like, they just, yeah, man. And the next time I see any one of these niggas, it's going to be curtains. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to body slam them, and I'm going to jump from off of the top rope and give them the people's elbow, and I'm going to give them a knee, and then I'm going to give them an uppercut. I'm going to be like, so you can. And the black nigger, he's going to go flying through the glass, and that's what's going to happen because white power. Like this is what they think. They think this bullshit. I'm like, yeah, okay. You know what I mean? Like the dude I'm talking about. He sent me some video of a black teenagers. They were in a fight, right? And it was a big white dude, a big white boy, but he was slow. But if his punch landed, black dude would have been done. The black dude was same height, but he was thinner, and he was faster, though. And if he hit the white dude, his punches probably wouldn't have done anything. So as far as I'm concerned, this fight was already going to go nowhere because the white dude was too slow to fucking hit the black dude, and the black dude wasn't as powerful as the white dude to make his punches even fucking matter, right? So, the fight goes on, they swinging at each other and all this other shit. Nobody's connecting. And then one of the other black dudes in the background jumps in and starts punching dude, right? And so, he sends me the video. See the blacks, they never do the 1v1. Oh, the black. Hold on. First off, stop. Were white men doing the 1v1 when y'all were running around with the Ku Klux Klan and lynching black people? Was that a 1v1? You know what I mean? Fuck out of here. But in any event, in modern times, if there was any adult there, that shit wouldn't have gone down like that. White or black. I don't even think a white dude would have let that shit go down like that if it was two white dudes jumping on a black dude. I don't think adults, they already know what time it is. You know what I mean? If that shit was in the military, it wouldn't have gone down like that. You know what I mean? Regardless of whatever the fucking race is. Two soldiers, they got beef and everything else like that, and they in the dorms and everything. I can already hear the fucking tables moving out the way. I can already hear that shit. You know what I mean? And motherfuckers say, let them scrap. And then they start fighting and everything, and they grab each other, and then they go, okay, break it up. And you got about 3 times that's going to get broken up so that they can stand up on their feet and then go at it again. Until somebody's too tired, out of breath, or whatever, or some sort of mutual respect is met. Because that's really what happens. Once they punch it out, man, the damnedest thing. I remember my mother told me this, because she said she didn't care for dealing and interacting with girls. And I said, why? And she said, because boys will fight, and that's the end of it. She's like, after boys fight, she was like, if a fight happens, after boys fight, if they really shoot the fair one, it's pretty much squashed. It's pretty much over. Once they recognize or able to gauge each other's power, or realize he ain't going back down, I'm not going back down, she was like, they're done. That is the end of it. It's very likely that they'll become friends out of that shit. But when it comes to the girls are petty. They hate each other. They will hate each other forever. And it'll stay that way. You know what I mean? Girls, I'm going to slash this bitch's face, pulling out the box cutters and shit. Yeah, this is all type of fucked up shit. The girls are ruthless. And she pointed that shit out. But, what else? What else were we talking about here? But the whole point of him, like, sending the video to me was to, the blacks, they all never shoot the fair, y'all never shoot the fair one, the 1-on-1, and black, y'all would never win, y'all can't win a fair fight. I'm like, I know you didn't just go there. When literally all of the heavyweight champions of the world are fucking black. I know you didn't go there. I'm like, the whole state of boxing is not only 1v1, but it's dominated by black men. Where is your great white hope? Everything from Mike Tyson to Bernard Hopkins to Joe Frazier to Sugar Ray Sugar Ray to freaking Lennox Lewis to Floyd Mayweather, to Jack Johnson, to Muhammad Ali, Evander Holyfield. You know what I'm saying? Where is this black men can't fight the 1v? Where does that argument even come from? You know what I'm saying? You don't even have champions to point to. What are you talking about? And so that's another thing. Like, they make up these fanciful ideas, or will try to grab at, I told you, they want us to be like Black Schmeagol. They get off at these, weak, small, frail, or especially a teenage black boy, ones that they can fucking actually dominate. You know what I mean? Those always seem to be the ones that they want to point to all the time. You know what I mean? I noticed that they don't really wag the finger or point the finger or really like try to talk shit on grown ass Debo looking black men. You notice that? This is why they always out here. They always trying to attack black children and shit like that. It'll be grown ass white men that they always want to like fuck with like the 16 and 17-year-old black teenagers, right? And try to like find some situation where, you know, they were engaging in negative behavior, bad behavior, criminal activity or whatever. And then they just go ballistic and just like run with these whole narratives, you know, about that. Right? They want to grab the black teenagers. They want to body slam them to the ground. Yeah, because, nigga, that's the only time that you going to win against a black dude on some 1v1 shit is when it's a teenager. Right? Like if you really think about it, the cops will do the same thing. They want to body slam. The cop is like, 36 years old, and the cop weighs, 100 and, the cop weighs 185 to maybe 200 pounds. And then they always out here trying to body slam, a black teenager who only weighs like 130 pounds to 150 or 60 pounds. You ever notice that shit? You know what I mean? I'm like, why don't you go try that shit on fucking Debo? You know what I mean? Go try that shit on some scary looking ass nigga with some size to him. They don't never do that shit. You know, it's always the, oh, look at this black thug. And, it's always the late adolescence that they want to target and focus on. You see? But, it's just, they got an issue with us. And I really do think that most of their issue is rooted in fear, and not even like a legitimate fear. It's like a fear that's like mixed and mashed with the sexual anxiety, you know what I mean, and them feeling inadequate compared to us. Like they have all this shit going on, and then they'll try to use like again, black people being in that pressure cooker. And then which, yes, there's obviously going to be more crime in the black community when black people are disproportionately poor. And some of them got to, break the rules and bend the rules to get by. Yeah, that's going to be a thing. You know what I mean? But then they operate backwards, right? You create the conditions, then you complain about the outcome, and then you use the outcome of the conditions that you created to justify the hatred of a particular group. That being black men. That's how they operate in the shit. Because their hatred originates, from a fear of retaliation. I think that's the main thing. Fear of reprisal, fear of retribution, fear of that black people are gonna, wake up one day and do the whole Nat Turner thing. That's what I really think, it really comes from. And then you have obviously the sexual threat of black men and that whole caricature of the black brute, right? And again, I don't know what the fuck white women are saying to white men, but, like I said, that whole, the black man got to rape the white woman. No, they don't. And you know that they don't have to. You've already seen the situations of white women throwing themselves at fucking black men. I mean, that can't even be said today with the way that you got fucking video clips of Duke Dennis and freaking, King 6'8" the Great, and the way that these women motherfuckers just standing there and they always come walking up to them. They wish that they could attract women like that. They wish that shit. And I'm not saying that there's no white men who can, but I'm saying you see how Clavicular be dropping the ball and shit like that with his awkward ass self over there looks maxing. Like the guy said in the review of my book, when it comes to the looks, yes, looks maxing is a byproduct of the bad economy. Just as black men became beautiful black men and sex gods in the 90s, due to, the outsourcing of manufacturing and the lack of jobs and everything else, the same thing is happening to white men. If they cannot have a positive male identity off of being the breadwinner and the provider for a family, then they have to go to other alternatives to try to sell themselves to white women, which is what you see. You see two paths going on right now. You see the looks maxing, and you see the, I'm a Christian and we must preserve Christianity and the white race and white civilization, right? That's what you see with that white guy at the beginning of this video. White power, right? Right? He's up there looking like a blonde Gallagher and shit. The dude that used to smash the fucking watermelons and whatnot. You know what I mean? Like, he got a fucked up haircut. You can already tell he's skinny, right? Not going to the gym, not listening to Rich Cooper, pick heavy shit up, put it down, right? None of that shit. So again, they either go the religious route or they go the, let me be a super ultra mega Chad to where, like, again, let me tap into white hyper masculinity, right? Which is the whole we was Vikings. Let me tap into that. And once I tap into that, then maybe these white women will be attracted to me. Maybe if I counter the black Zulu warrior Mandingo physique and I come up with this Viking physique, that these white women will want to sit on my cock like they want to go over there and sit on the soul pole. Because women, evolutionarily, they're the wild cards and everything. Like, even in that video of the white guy talking about, white, that he was having the debate, morality is just for friends. In there, he was talking about the Yemnaya. Now, the Yemnaya, because remember, white people only came into existence about, 45 to 50,000 years ago. So, white people, technically speaking, come from, the Central Asia, Middle East, sort of area. And then they migrated west. And the Yemnaya, migrated less. They say that they came from the steppe, like Afghanistan and shit like that. They migrated. This is the whole basis of the Indo-European language and all that other shit. Anyway, they migrated over. And then, if you look at the population, because there's a couple videos on YouTube that cover it, that start talking about Y DNA, the Y DNA is essentially this group, and then the X DNA or the mitochondrial DNA, because women, if you don't know, women they donate their mitochondrial DNA to the oocyte. So, and then men give, obviously, the Y chromosome. So when you see a population and the Y chromosome comes from distinctly, one specific group, but then the mitochondrial DNA comes from, another, group, the Y chromosome, the idea is that another group of men came in, wiped out the main group of men, and then basically fucked all the women and took all the women over. So, I'm kind of examining that, with the whole idea and the premise of, the great replacement, right? And the idea of, sexual competitors. But the whole thing, the fucked up, the part that doesn't get past me is the fact that what is preventing young white men from being, reproductively viable or being sexual competitors or having access to women, let's go with that, are the older white men who look like them. Because the older white men are holding the resources. The older white men were the ones that voted for the system to be the way that it is, and for houses to be expensive and have all these fucking forever wars, right? Which they primarily did to make money off of, right? For the stocks to go up, right? Not because, they were actually securing the future for young white people. Like when they come online and they talk all this shit about our forefathers, our nation, our birthright. What is your birthright? Because they're not leaving you anything. Okay? They got to keep the wars going because they have to justify using U.S. tax dollars to fucking consume, or produce those weapons, right? And then they take their cut or, use the back door with the freaking, the stock market and shit. I'm convinced that the stock market is nothing more than like a sophisticated money laundering scheme or something like that. Because if you really look at it, right, like it's like, so the dollar, like the like, let's say I'll just use small number, like $50 worth of stock. So I bought $50 worth of stock, and the idea is that, so I bought that $50 worth of stock with real money. I bought $50 worth of stock with real money, and the value of that $50 when I bought it was $50. But then I put it in the stock, and because of inflation and a whole bunch of other pressures and the money printing and everything else, I know, right, that $50 in, I don't know, 5 years is not going to be worth that $50. So I put it in the stock, which is a system of imaginary money, because it's imaginary value, right? And I'm able to then take out more value than the $50 I put in, because the idea is that the S&P 500 constantly goes up and the stocks constantly go up. And then I'm able to take that money out at a later date and have more than the original $50 that I put in. Right? It's the whole basis of, Elon Musk and all that, right? So again, as I've talked about numerous times, the wealthy cheat code is you have a stock, you have a company, it goes public, right? You got majority of the shares, right? Then you go to the bank, you use the shares as collateral, then you take out a certain percentage of money, relative to whatever the number of shares that you use as collateral. So you're a billionaire, you take out 200 million, and then you don't have to pay taxes on that loan, and then you just, freaking pay interest on that, right? And so, like, when you really look at it, all of it is imaginary money. Because, like, you say, a freaking Elon Musk is a trillionaire, but there's no real $1 trillion. There isn't even $1 billion. Nowhere on earth is there actually $1 billion sitting in a bank vault. Nowhere on earth is there actually $1 billion physically sitting in a bank vault anywhere. It's all made up. It's just made up, right? Which only, again, further facilitates white supremacy, because the money's so imaginary that they always have more money, because it's not really real. This is the whole thing of why they had the Mataba conference and Gaddafi, and why they had to get rid of Gaddafi, because he was trying to get all the African nations come together and the Arab nations to come together and actually go to, a gold standard, because they actually have physical gold. Which is why when U.S. forces went into Iraq, one of the first things that they took and looted from the country were the gold reserves. Same thing when they went into Haiti in 1916 to like 1924. They take the physical gold. You see, because gold is always that like magical thing in the background that is always has an importance. It always has a significance to, again, fight the inflationary reality of the U.S. dollar. I mean, I got to look, but I don't know if at any point in time, like, inflation ever didn't go up. You know what I mean? So if you just fast forward and you look, the dollar has to collapse at some point. It just simply has to collapse at some point. Whether it's through printing or whether it's, inflationary forces, right? But essentially, like, the people who are billionaires, like, they aren't real billionaires. They're billionaires based off of valuations, speculations, right? When you really sit back and you look at the shit is not real. It's not tangible. It's only as tangible as the banks essentially allow it to be, that the banks actually want the stock. And then you see what they're doing now, with this whole situation with now they want to, they're so over leveraged. Now they want to tap into everybody's 401k. Right now that's going to be the fucking bailout, and they're allowing it. They're changing the rules. The elites are changing the rules to basically allow them to steal and fuck your money over even more. And all you young white guys ain't saying or doing shit. You ain't doing shit about it. You're so out here focused on, oh my God, there's a cultural war. Oh my God, the Muslims are coming and they're bringing Sharia law and all this other shit. And these motherfuckers are robbing you blind. robbing you blind, and then leaving you with the fucking bill. And then the billionaires, all they're going to do is get up on a plane and get the fuck up out of here. Why do you think they're around building bunkers, trying to buy islands, right? Wasn't Jared Kushner, right, and Ivanka, weren't they trying to buy an island off the coast of Albania, right? Yeah, they're getting ready. They're making their exit plans. They made their money. They're getting ready to make their fucking exit plans. You know, and America's just gonna, just fucking implode. And it'll be looking like the movie The Domestics up in this bitch. Now, I know that's all doom and gloom and, that sounds fairly extreme, SWP. What are you saying? I'm saying look at the writing on the wall. You know what I mean? Shit has gotten worse. It hasn't gotten better. You know, and people are hoping, oh man, if we get Trump out of there, if we get the more Democrats, socialist Democrats, we shall see. We shall see. Because at the end of the day, here's the ugly reality. It's the same thing as when black people are talking about reparations. Reparations requires there to be a transfer of wealth from, whether you want to say the white American system, the white government, white supremacy, white people, to the black community. And when you're talking about, what's going on with this gross wealth wealth inequality, it would require for all of that imaginary money, right? All that imaginary wealth to be transferred to the American people, or we'll say the American white people. All that money that Peter Thiel and Jeff Bezos and fucking Elon Musk is sitting on, all that imaginary money, right? It would have to transfer to everyday white people in the form primarily of wages. That's what it would have to. That's what it have to go to, right? The average American would need to be making 125 to 150,000. That's what they would need to be making in order for the money to make sense, and so that they can actually make a move and start a family and have some disposable money and whatnot. But again, the whole thing is the infinite growth model. Like I said, with the housing, the idea that, I'm going to buy a house and I'm going to flip it and I'm going to get the next generation of kids to pay twice as much as I paid for it, and we're just going to keep doing that to infinity. That was doomed to fail, especially while keeping the wages stagnant. That was doomed to fail. And I don't know if y'all have seen the shit with JP Morgan. What is JP Morgan doing right now? JP Morgan, what was it? 78 billion. What were they pumping into the economy? No, I'm sorry, not 78 billion. So JP Morgan plans 750 billion housing investment to address affordability crisis. So I don't know what the fuck that means. I don't know what the hell they're doing. I have no clue. Hold on. Come on, get off this shit. I have no clue what they're doing. JP Morgan aims to funnel 750 billion into the housing through 2035. And see, the whole thing is, the whole system, as I've said this numerous times, the economy is like an engine. You got to oil and lubricate all parts of the engine. And for a long time, the wealthy class, all the money has been funneling up to them. Well, guess what? Again, eventually the shit becomes so unequal that nobody can buy your stuff. Okay? Once nobody can buy your stuff, right? Guess what stops when nobody can buy your stuff? Right? Taxes happen when you what? When money moves, when it exchanges. You can't get any taxes out of that. You can't get property taxes out of a home I don't own. Right? I mean, this is why do you think all the realtors are going out of business? Oh, they thought it was great. Yeah, the infinite growth of the housing, and now, they're at a point where, They can't even sell the houses. They're talking about there's 650 or 630,000 more houses on the market than there are buyers. You see, Florida's got like another housing crisis. All the boomers, all these people that want to get out of their house. First off, it's like it'd be dumb to get out of your house, because if you were to get something new, interest rates are 7%. If you got a 2% interest rate, you might as well stay in what the fuck you got. Right? And then on top of that, the young people can't afford the asking prices that the people think who believe in infinite equity. You know what I mean? They think that they deserve for the house. The house is like way overinflated, and these people think that they deserve that. And on top of the fact that these people wouldn't even qualify unless you're making well into six figures. This shit is retarded, right? But where's this at? Housing pledge. Let's read up on this real quick. U.S. banks are witnessing a big increase in deposit flight from their customers, according to newly updated stats by the Federal Reserve Economic Data System. 78 billion exited American bank accounts from July 5th through the 12th. So basically, the banks people are taking money because they don't have money, taking money out of their bank accounts, which means the bank doesn't have money to lend in order to charge interest on the loans that they would be otherwise giving out. The deposits exodus follows a 2-week period of relative stability in the system as big banks invest significant levels of cash to third-party intermediaries to bring in new deposits. Banks are feeling the pressure to compete with higher-yielding money market. And J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon just issued a warning to shareholders on banks sectors need to keep up with demands for higher rates and avoid further deposit flight. The Wall Street Journal. There is very little pricing power in most of our business, and betas are going to go up. I don't even know what a beta is. Autonomous research analyst Brian Ferran says Diamond's alert represents a definite curb your enthusiasm moment for banks after a industry-wide surge in the second quarter profits. According to the Fed, $742 billion in deposits has left the banking system in the last year, and U.S. banks now have a total of $17.28 trillion in deposits on the balance sheets. So money has been leaving the banks. Let me click on another article. Let me see what this says. JP Morgan, August, JP Morgan, Give me something tangible. Give me something good. Something in here. Announcement of $750 billion investment in housing is a strategic move by JP Morgan aimed at financing the construction and maintenance of 1 million affordable housing units and assisting 500,000 consumers in purchasing homes. This initiative comes at a crucial time of rising housing prices and affordability concerns are becoming increasingly pressing, particularly with the U.S. midterm elections approaching. The bank's commitment to affordable housing financing is also aligned with its earlier launched American Dream initiative, which seeks to broaden economic opportunities in key areas, including housing, small businesses, and financial health. The bottom line, again, the money doesn't circulate. You can't tax anything. There's no participation in multiple sectors of the economy, right? If somebody's not buying a house, chances are they're not having kids. If they're not having kids, they're not buying all the shit associated with kids. If they're not buying a house, they're not putting up ceiling fans. They're not putting in granite countertops. They're not putting in refrigerators. They're not building that deck. They're not, renovating the roof and putting a new shingles up. They're not doing landscaping. It's just a whole bunch of shit. The main issue here, which isn't being talked about, is the fucking job sector. That's what the problem is. And again, corporations actually paying fucking family supporting wages. Without that, this don't mean shit. this don't mean shit. Because again, everything on here, like, you would have to fucking qualify for, to begin with, which means that you would have to be gainfully employed in order to qualify for whatever the fuck it is Jamie Dimon is claiming that he's trying to offer. And you got Gen Z that is just completely fucking assed out. This is where the young white boy's anger should be focused. But instead, hold on, I gotta put the back of my wrist on my forehead. Oh, black fatigue. It's fucking nonsense. Again, I don't know what is up with all the weakness, the cowardice, all this bullshit. Again, like I said, fear of retribution, fear of losing their place, their position, right? Fear of sexual competition or any other form of competition. You see? Again, that's why they want fascism, because fascism is socialism for white guys. Socialism exclusively for white guys. Yes, because if I do the salute, right, to the demagogue, he's going to give me some Hugo Boss outfits, right? He's going to give me, a place to stay, and then he's going to give me, he's going to honorarily deputize me. And then that means I get to go out here and I get to get a bitch because, what other choice does she have other than me? Because I'm the best, because I've been made to be the best. I've been given a position. I've been given a title. I've been given status. And so that allows me to attract the white females that I want to attract. You see, I'm the option because I'm the only option. This isn't about competing. This is about having guaranteed pussy. Guarantees in there. You see, that's what all the fascism and socialism, fascist, that's what fascism is. It is socialism exclusively for white guys. If you think it's not, go ahead and break down how it's not. I bet you can't. I bet you can't. Because that's what fascism is. You know what I'm saying? You tell me what careers, any of the people that were surrounding Hitler had. They didn't have no fucking careers. You know what I'm saying? They all, and again, going back to what that woman that's running for Congress, Mrs. Chaudhry, right? The white Muslim revert, right? Like she pointed out when she broke the shit down about, you can always pay half the poor to kill the other half, going back to Jay Gould, right? You got a bunch of, young white men that suck in the system of meritocracy and, they have no status. They have no station. You deputize them. You give them a badge. Oh, yeah, they'll go out there and do horrific things. They'll go out there and do horrific things if it puts them in a position that they would otherwise not be in if it wasn't for supporting the demigod. Right? So, that's where we are. That is literally where we are. We are in dangerous times, in a dangerous place, in a dangerous space. That is where we are. And this is where, black men, I'm telling y'all need to circle the wagons. All that shit walking around, me mugging each other. You know what I mean? Talking about, what street you on, throwing up your, Grape Street, set bullshit. It's all bullshit. You see? You don't have much of anything to counter, all this, white Christian nationalism or just nationalism in general. You guys just are not focused. And we need to be way more focused. Because, guaranteed, man, I'm telling you, like, again, you heard the white guy. Please, just let us purge. Just let us purge. That's ultimately what they want. If the government collapses and these white guys take over, and they storm the Capitol, but this time with real weapons or whatever the fuck they're going to do, crash out, make all type of disruptions. Because seriously speaking, the federal government, in my opinion, does not have the actual power to stop that level of disruption. I mean, they got the flock cameras, they got, the NSA, and they're monitoring, people and all this other shit. But, again, it's easy to check the black community. It's easy to check, Antifa. It's not easy to check, the population that represents angry white males under the age of 40 who have many of which who have military experience because they join and serve the military, including white supremacists and white nationalists that have some level of skill. That is not an easy undertaking. They start popping off in like 5 cities across the country, man, please. And then what you gonna do when you have other white male sympathizers? The police are gonna be white male sympathizers. ICE is gonna be white male sympathizers. I mean, you name it. There's gonna be a whole bunch of white male sympathizers. That being other white males who are in positions of power, enforcement, and all that other shit. And guaranteed, if they were to come up with another system, they're going to try to purge all the undesirables. I told you, the black population, we are an inconvenient population. We are inconvenient. They don't know what to do with us. Because, of, the aspects of slavery. I've talked to a few white guys that, as far as they're concerned, they're kind of on the Ann Coulter shit. They're like, there's only three groups of Americans, and they basically sum it up to, if you weren't here during the 13 colonies, you're not an American. So they only see it as whites, blacks, and Native Americans, and that is what they consider Americans. Everybody else can get the fuck on. And I've heard that at least 2 or 3 times, coming from, white guys, and they tend to be more, of your like original constitutionalist type of people. They're not really on some like white nationalist shit. But where am I at? 143. Damn, this video is too long. But anyway, I just needed to share, my thoughts on this shit. We are in some real dangerous times, and I'm telling you, I keep telling black people, you need to pay attention. You need to be ready for some shit to pop off. If it pops off, because you got to remember, we're only like 9 meals away from anarchy. Okay? Like we are dangerously close to any sort of, real major disruption. Go pull up, go on to like the FBI shit. Let me see. Let me type in FBI threat level. I guarantee they got some notice up there. FBI threat level. They'll probably be talking about Iran. Let's see what they have to say. The United States is operating under heightened state of alert for potential foreign and domestic threats, with federal law enforcement monitoring risk related to international retaliation, state-sponsored cyber operations, that would most likely be China and Russia, and violent extremists. Current threat environment, international tensions. Officials have flagged elevated risk of retaliatory attacks, cyber-enabled operations linked to foreign adversaries like Iran. Domestic concerns. Law enforcement continues to track domestic violent extremists, lone attackers, and threats targeting religious and government sites. So that hints to me at, again, people taking issue with the federal government, ICE, as well as, attacks on the Jewish community. Advisory system rather than a single static color-coded national level. The government uses blah, blah. Okay, then that's it. What is the, let me see. Does the NSA have a threat level? Let's see what they say. The National Security Agency does not maintain a public cold color threat level scale. National Terrorism Advisory. I guess they don't have one. You would think they would have one. Let me see this advisory. Homeland Security. Current advisories. What are the current advisories? There are no current advisories. Okay, so they don't have anything right now. Expired advisories. Are they up? Bulletin. What does it say? Ongoing Iran conflict is causing a heightened threat environment in the United States. Low-level cyber attacks against U.S. networks by pro-Iran hacktivists are likely, and cyber actors affiliated with the Iranian government. Okay, so they're worried about Iran on here. The likelihood of violence. Okay, where are we at? Blah, blah, blah. Skipping. Government officials it views as responsible for death of Iranian military commander killed January 20th. The likelihood of violent extremists in homeland independently mobilizing to violence in response to the conflict would likely increase Iranian, because all this is about Iran. Anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, ongoing Iran conflict contribute based on that. Yeah, okay. Well, I guess they're not paying attention to these agitated young white men, but okay. What is this? Threat assessments. Okay, wait, let me click on this one. Threat assessments, potential vectors. What is this? Threat vectors. Hold on a second. I know this is boring, but I just want to see what this says. 5th generation 5G wireless technology represents a complete transformation of telecommunication networks, introducing vast array of connections. Boring. I want to get to the juicy stuff. You know, like I said, Canada already came out with that, with that report. Let me see what Canada's saying. Canada, RCMP, threat level. Let's see okay, let me see what they say real quick. Ever-changing nature and the threat level means Canada must remain continually vigilant. Canada's national terrorism tool governments, including law enforcement agencies. Okay, what are we looking at? Low. What is high? Critical is highly and likely could occur immediately. Exceptional measures are... Okay, so now it's giving me the chart, but where are the notes? What are the threats that Canada faces? Public reports of terrorists in Canada. What is this? Let me see what this says. Public reports Canada government's counterterrorism, yada, yada, yada. Terrorist threat in Canada report describes government public report. These are old. This is like 2017. This shit is old. But that RCMP article that they wrote, and you can go and you can find it. Just type in RCMP, says that the housing crisis. Let me see if they have any update. RCMP. Canada housing crisis. Because I know they got some serious... A leaked internal Canadian mounted police report warned the economic deterioration and the severe housing affordability crisis in Canada could trigger major social unrest and public disillusionment as citizens realize home ownership is permanently out of reach. Economic discontent. The report highlights that declining living standards, high inflation, and out-of-reach housing create a vulnerable population. Erosion of trust, widespread financial stress threatens traditional social stability and trust in public institutions. Future shocks. The analysis predicts that economic disenfranchisement among younger generations could manifest a systematic civil unrest if conditions do not improve. Context of the housing crisis, supply shortage. Canada faces a massive deficit of house construction relative to its population growth. Broader pressures, high cost, are tied to slow municipal approval processes, high development fees, and broader macroeconomic strains. And you know what the municipal approval processes? That's the fucking boomers. The NIMBYs, not in my backyard, because building more houses would decrease the appreciation that they have in their homes. They would lose equity in their homes, and they don't want to lose equity in their homes. So it's more important for them to
It's
have...
no secret Canada needs more affordable housing, but the type of housing is important, and some cities just aren't building enough of what many Canadians need most. It's called the missing middle. Most cities are flooded with high-rise apartments, which don't have that much space.
Yeah, you can't raise a family in that. Anyway, you can go on YouTube and you can find clips like that. But yeah, no. The boomers don't want their property values to go down. You saw this with Trump when Trump was up there and he was like, nah, the affordability, I don't want I don't want their houses prices to go down. And I'm like, man, again, the young people about to tear this motherfucker up. I don't know what they don't get about that shit. And maybe they'll be dead before it happens. I don't know. But, again, same thing that happened in the black community. Prolonged exposure to poverty. After a while, you just, you give up. You give up on living that life. Being that dude. Remember when I had that clip from the 1960s? What documentary was that? About the black middle class and what that black man said, where he was just like, if I want to have a job that he could see himself that he could grow into and whatnot. That's what young men think about when they think about having a job, or having a career. The same thing with this bullshit that they do with the, you got to jump around jobs every 2 years in order to get a pay raise, because the whole model of staying at a company for, 30 years and moving up the ranks is just out. Again, all of this is connected back to failed white male leadership. Nobody was at the helm. Nobody was touching the captain's wheel other than white men. That's who made all these decisions. That's where all the money is. That's where all the levers of power are. Okay? Is white men. Now they're trying to run away and escape the shit. If you want to spread the blame or spread the accountability, well, then you got to spread the power. You got to spread the power. And y'all just don't, obviously ain't trying to do that. So, okay, well, then that's your ass then. Okay, this shit happened underneath the watch of the men who looked like you. Nobody else, was in control. Nobody else had the power to make these decisions. You all made these decisions over the course of, the better half of the last, 50 to 60 years. And I'm tired of seeing all these young white men acting like, oh, no, it's the immigrants. Why are the immigrants here? Who's letting the immigrants in? Why are they letting the immigrants in? Right? Because they don't want to pay you. It starts with I remember I was having this argument with this white supremacist about it. I'll end this video because I don't want to go over 2 hours. But I'm saying, I was having this argument with him. And he was like, no, check this out. The immigrants are coming in, and that's the reason why these white employers don't want to hire young white men. I'm like, so the immigrants are coming in, and the white employers are have a gun to their head, and they're being forced to decide to pay the immigrant as opposed to paying you. I'm like, bullshit. No, it starts with the he just could not wrap his head around that there has to be the want, there has to be the desire. And this is what I mean about when I say the black community is in a pressure cooker and there's no resources there, and when you compare that to white men that have the ability, they could change whatever they want. They got the magic genie lamp. They got the infinite money glitch. They print more money. They could build. They could come out with an infrastructure bill tomorrow and put a whole bunch of young white men to work. But no, instead, there's probably not any money for that. because it was more important for them to, give fucking ISIS infinite cash than it was to come up with an infrastructure bill like what they did in the 1950s when they came up with the Federal Highway Commission Act. Why doesn't America have freaking high-speed rails like China does? Why doesn't America have that? Right? Why doesn't America have better, optic cable, when it comes to the internet? Why don't rural areas have like T1 internet at least? Why is that? You see, there's a whole bunch of shit. Again, America does not invest in its own people. It does not invest in its youth. It does not invest. It only invests in the military industrial complex. It only invests, in now this over leveraged AI that isn't even making a profit like that. The valuation is way over the profit. It's over leveraged. And this is what collapsed the stock market in 1929. So America's got rough air ahead. And because white people, instead of knowing the facts, being informed, paying attention to the details, white folks are out here more focused on cultural war and, what man is masquerading as a woman using, a woman's bathroom or, LGBTQ storybook time and all this other bullshit, as opposed to focusing on what really matters, which is the money. And because you didn't focus on the money and you focused on all the other bullshit, oh my God, I got black fatigue. You know what I mean? Now you're hurting. Now you're struggling. Now your kids are fucking living at home with you and whatnot. Now you over there subsidizing them, bitching, mad as hell. Why don't you get a job? Your kid doesn't even want to get a job or go to work because none of the jobs would actually pay them enough to get on their feet and move the fuck out. You know what I mean? So they're just basically working for nothing. They're working just to exist. They don't even have enough money to fucking go out and fucking, mingle and fraternize and shit. They don't have money to do that. Even if you were to go out and go to the bar and buy some alcohol and drink and get drunk and everything, you're not going to see other young white people there because they're broke. And then on top of that, where are you going to go to fuck? You going to go back to your parents' house? You're gonna sneak a girl in your bedroom at 25? Is that what you're going to do? You see what I'm saying? It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. So, again, white people did it to themselves. They did it to themselves, and they want to go out here and be mad at everybody else. Anyway, that's all I got for y'all. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.
On the scene, diamond blingy, whole screen. Check a boy, Louis V. I'm so fresh and so clean. Stuff them bands in my jeans, slap them 30s in them things. Pull the trigger, let it sing. Then go smoke a Russian cream.
Boo, hold on. Yeah. Hello? Where we at? Oh, you want to know where I'm at? We outside!